We family, man. We gotta look out for each other. Those locals, man. Here you go, man. Yo, man. Thanks for looking out, ese. Patos locos, whatever. Yeah. So you good now, man? You sad? Yeah, family. Yeah, thanks, man. Okay, you white bitch. Give me some John John. Hey, yo, man. You family, man. Patos locos, man.
Hi you guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Tyra here with another struggle review, here to discuss Blood In, Blood Out. Now this movie is from 1993 and it stars Benjamin Bratt. Now before I get into all things pinche puto, I need you guys to drop down and subscribe to my channel and like this video. I'm going to give you guys a moment to do that and then we're going to come back and discuss. I mean, don't go to jail. If this movie teaches you anything, like, don't go to jail. Don't do the crime. Don't do the time. Don't go to jail. And always and forever, take care of your blood, your la familia. Hold your family down.
Go back.
Now that you guys have hopefully subscribed to see more of me, let's get into this movie. But before we jump into the video, I have to give a shout out to the person who paid for it and requested this movie. So if you happen to get your whole Cruz, Paco, Miklo ass life, it's not because of me, it's because of this person right here. Thank you so much for supporting me and paying for this content. You are officially the homie. Now, getting into this movie, this was a first time watch for me. This is a movie that I heard about, I saw on a whole lot, maybe tried to watch it, but always managed to fall asleep. Why ain't nobody tell me this movie was 3 hours long? Now, this movie was directed by Taylor Hackford, who has a really great background in film. He's directed and also wrote on films like Dolores Claiborne, The Devil's Advocate, An Officer and a Gentleman, and he also wrote, directed, and produced Ray. Now, what I also could really appreciate about this movie is that the writer, Jimmy Santiago, could probably relate to what was going on with this film. I love when we get writers who come from a genuine background in correlation with what they're writing about, and it really resonates more with the film, instead of having someone who has absolutely nothing to do with the culture trying to write about an experience that they have not shared. But Jimmy here, went to jail at a young age. He was an orphan. He was from New Mexico. Spent some time in prison for possession and later on cleaned himself up to become a poet and a writer. And I also really appreciated the fact that everybody here portraying Mexicans were pretty much Mexican for the most part. Back in them days, they'll slap a little brown bronzer on somebody and say, all right, get out there, you're Mexican. No, everybody here was really true to form, which shows, how much the people behind the scenes really cared about this project. Not just that, but everything as a whole. There is a lot of authenticity that comes off of this movie, especially when we get to the jail part, that you just don't get when it comes to other movies. Now, first we are introduced to Miklo here, who is fresh off of probation, fresh off of distancing himself from his problematic ass father, and going to his mother, who seems equally as problematic. When we get into the writing, I immediately noticed just how great it was. Like, Lord forbid this movie be 4 hours, but with that little time that we have with Miklo and his mother, you get that sense of abandonment and isolation. Like, God damn, Mom, you don't even know my birthday? But you see right away that he is straddling the fence because he is mixed. He does have a Mexican mother and he has a white father, and he's not quite sure where he's supposed to fit into that, but he is very proud of his Mexican heritage, his background, and that's what he chooses to identify as, even though he clearly looks like your average white boy with the blonde hair and the blue eyes. It really speaks to, being that black sheep, that oddball of the family, feeling like you're always outside of the circle, and what internalizing that that can really do to you throughout your life. Nobody seems to want him, so he has no choice but to fall into his aunt and his cousins, Cruz and Paco, who a very close, progressive, tight-knit Mexican family, but who are also vatos locos. Now we have Cruz here portrayed by Jesse Borrega. He delivered so much in his performance for this film. In fact, everybody's acting was top tier. Like Benjamin Bratt, I have yet to see him act as well as he acted in this film, and this was like one of his earlier roles. But Cruz is very uplifted and beloved by his family, especially his baby brother. They are so proud of him and put him on a pedestal because he has a really bright future as a painter and an artist. He is truly talented. So much so that he even gets a scholarship for school. And then we have Paco. Benjamin Bratt is just so unrecognizable to me in this role. I have never seen him dig this deep and be so thugged out. You know what I mean? Like, he has no real direction. He is lazy. He is definitely going nowhere as far as his family is concerned. But yet and still, the both of them are equally involved in support the Vatos Locos gang. I absolutely love what this movie had to say about gang culture from front to back. This movie is taking place, you know, in the early 70s, and we were just kind of starting to get away from gangs being a positive representation. It wasn't always what it is now. It was about unity, about family, about support, positivity, and then it slowly progressed into being more about separation, about turf, about drugs, about violence. How far is too far? What are you willing to do to prove yourself worthy to belong to our gang? And what are you willing to do to protect it? Which brings us to Miklo. He wants nothing more than to belong and connect to his family in any way possible, even if it's through initiation into the Vatos Locos gang. I'm just as authentic as the rest of my family, especially when it comes to Paco. The biggest and best thing that I can do is imitate his behavior and be just like him. I will definitely be accepted then. He looks up to him so much. With Cruz appearing to be that logical, level-headed brother, from the get-go, Paco comes off as the common denominator of fuckery, misleading, irrational ass behavior, and peer pressure. Come on, man. You can do it, man. Let me see the color inside of you, man. Don't be a pinte puncho, man. Let's do it. I knew you couldn't do it. You like, oh, just downright terrible. And Miklo is falling for it in every sense of the word. I need to prove myself. I need to belong. This is my family. If I don't have them, I don't have anything else. And then we get into the retaliation in the turf and the gang war that just went too far. I love how it's pretty innocent at first and it's just about turf. These dudes are where they don't belong, and then it progresses and turns into something that the family could never imagine and changes the dynamics forever. 1 minute we have Cruz, you know, he got a little money, he's about to go to school, it's a party, it's a good time. Who's that lady? Who's that lady? Beautiful lady. The Isley Brothers was going. The Coronas were out. They were having a good time. And then we get into that gang retaliation coming out of nowhere. And they broke his fucking back. Like, damn, all we did is break your window. They break his back, injure his hand, just completely changes the trajectory of his life forever. Was it all worth it in the end? It never is. Yes, Miklo has proven himself worthy to be a Vatos Loco and get the tat, but now your brother is wheelchair bound. He has to learn to rehabilitate himself, rehabilitate his back, which later progresses into a full-blown heroin addiction. And for what? You gotta pay your dues to me now, pinche mamo, like, property of Vatos Locos, like. All of this need to retaliate and prove ourselves, and it just goes even further. And things in the family continue to get worse and worse, courtesy of Paco. We're the ringleader when it's time to retaliate. He had so much leverage within the group, not that he could control anybody because everybody is free forward, pretty much damn near the same age and able to make their own decisions. But he is definitely that voice, that leadership. If I move, you move, just like that. And right now I'm thing. We're retaliating, Holmes. Like, let's go. But in the midst of that, you got your friends and your family, Miklo alone, who is trying to keep you from going too far and shooting somebody, accidentally gets shots and kill somebody on sight, just dead. Now this, I'm not gonna say small thing because homie back was fucked up. Did you see the crack when they put him on the goddamn fire? I'm like, oh God. But like he said, a life for a life, an eye for an eye. Our blood is still very much alive. A domino effect that we can never come back from as a family. I love how he's driving. He's so cocky, thinking he can outrun goddamn police. And you got Miklo in the back like, no, man, I don't want to go to a hospital. I'm getting out, man. People die there. Like, but I paid attention to the fact that even though that crash happened and Miklo shot and he eventually goes to prison and do time for murder, in that moment of the car crashing, the two other Vatos Locos got out and ran the fuck off. Vatos Locos, a brother never leaves another brother behind, but he stays there and he stays with Miklo. And I thought it said a lot to the fact that I felt like they never actually needed a gang, and all they really needed was the support and love and gang mentality with each other, because the same ones that ran off, Vatos Locos never leaves another behind, were the same ones who later indulged with the drugs with Cruz. All they ever needed was La Familia. And the moment they tried to prove themselves to other people, everything went to shit. Hey, Cinderella, go find yourself a fella. You're on the clock, bitch, and midnight is coming. Miklo is in prison in San Quentin, young, white, and ripe. Oh Lord, he is introduced and immediately clings to a fellow Vatos Locos, Popeye. Now, if Popeye wasn't a representation that gang sometimes don't mean shit, I don't know what was. Didn't lockdown teach us anything about not clinging and being a friend to the first person who's nice to you when you go to prison? No. I love here. He's like, yeah, Vatos Locos, Chewy. Yeah, I know Chewy. It's my family. Like, Chewy, I had my shit pushed in, bro. Was no prize to anybody this entire goddamn movie. That was not your olive branch. I love all of the moments from front to back when the movie gears more towards jail life and what is going on with Miklo and how he's growing in the years that he has to spend in prison. It is one of the most realistic aspects of the movie to me. I love that immediately when he gets in there, you know, on the outside it's gang this and we're separate in my turf, but once you come to prison, it's more about color and sticking to your own. Oh yeah, you killed a Joker, I'm a Joker. Who cares? We are Mexican, we are Chicanos, we are whatever, we are black, we are white, we are all sticking together. You have a fellow Joker who is supposedly your rival gang on the outside, who ends up being your best friend, your confidant, your Holmes in prison more than anything. And then you have somebody who's actually from your gang, a Vatos Locos, like Popeye, who is low down, dirty, conniving snake, a pimp, just grind. Trust no one. Prison sucks. It's predatory. It's drug filled. Delroy Lindo with an afro pick. Know what I'm saying? It's all about gangs. It's all about control. Whoever has, you know, the most power, the most persuasion has control over the prisons. And right about now, it's the pure white Aryan Brotherhood, motherfuckers. Oh, Lord. Through a billion prison documentaries, Shawshank Redemption, Oz, Lockdown, Penitentiary, South Central, that goddamn Brotherhood is shown to constantly sell drugs, act masculine, control the trade, and always be downright sick-ass sexual savages, waiting for an opportunity to strip a man of his dignity and his manhood. Straight out of prison. Miklo, once again, is left to get in where he fits in. Popeye couldn't get his chong chong. He is left yet again to try to prove himself to a gang, not only to belong, but now for protection. His options are so limited. Meanwhile, Cruz has developed a full-blown heroin addiction. He is blowing all the hopes and dreams he ever had. He has a whole exhibit just completely destroyed. He has completely dove into drugs because of this accident, and he just can't seem to get out of his own way. And it only intensifies when Lil Baby comes in there and overdoses. Like, what the fuck? He becomes so irresponsible, just so like all hope is lost. And it's truly sad. Like, you really feel for the family because he was so talented, and it's just like they kept having tragedy after tragedy. Like, it was just terrible. Did you see the mama run in? Like, no, wake up me. I was like, oh Lord. It was just horrible, and he is just so out of it, and you just see him just dwindle down the entire movie. But where's Paco? Paco is straight lace. Paco has went to the Marines, and he has cleaned up. Now, speaking of Paco, Paco literally makes a man out of himself and does a complete 180 from the Paco that we met in the beginning of the film. And all of that angst and that extraness that he has, he does something constructive and turns into a whole police officer. There is a lot of weight on Paco's shoulders in this movie as to, well, if you didn't do this, all of this wouldn't have happened to the family. Most of the stuff here is a reaction in that domino effect because of the first initial things that he did at the beginning of the movie. Absolutely true. But was everything Paco's fault? Miklo's situation, yes, he was eager to be a follower. Yes, he did look up to Paco. Yes, he did, grab the gun and end up shooting someone and end up changing his life forever when he does his stint in prison. But the ground of what was wrong with Miklo can be contributed to his upbringing, his mother and his father. They did him wrong from jump. If he didn't have those deep feelings of resentment and abandonment, and she could remember his goddamn birthday, he probably would have turned out so differently. But he has those things instilled in him, the need, to prove himself. I think if it wasn't Paco, it maybe would have been somebody else. Yes, he could have been a better cousin and led him in a better direction, but Miklo was damaged from the beginning. And then we get into Cruz. Poor goddamn Cruz with his little dark heroin addict circles under his eyes. He got into his own way. After he had the accident and the back pain and the prescription drugs, which turned later into heroin, the whole self-pity, all the indulgence, he had that to go and do on his own. All of these things are really a domino effect of the family being selfish and not thinking of each other as a whole. Paco wasn't thinking of the family as a whole, just trying to prove himself to be macho as Paco and doing the retaliation shit. And then you have Cruz. He wasn't thinking, because if he was, he would have known that his brother was looking up to him and thought the most of him this entire time. And whatever you're gonna do, I want to do it too. He didn't even think enough in the moment to protect his brother from that atmosphere and from those drugs, and he overdosed. It's just not being responsible, not thinking of the La Familia. Think about your family. Pinche puto, think about your family. And we still see more of this selfish behavior go on and on in the movie. Yes, Paco was doing drug busts with his long ass Chicano wig on. But even though he's built himself up to be this great person and, he wants to protect and serve, especially with what happened to his own family, him and collectively everybody else in his family completely ostracized Cruz, which makes him dive even more into that heroin because he feels like he doesn't have anybody. Like, oh, it was just so sad. It was just like, Lord, if they could all come together and help each other, that would be great. Do we completely despise Cruz for what happened to Juanito? Absolutely. But it was an accident. Like, oh, I just kept waiting for them all to come together because you knew that nothing would get any better until they did. I love how I got my shit pushed in, bro. Once again, they already left the car. Already grabbed Cruz. Get out of here, man. Let's go. We can't be seen with this body. Like, Oh, the gang, what gang? What gang? Y'all never needed a gang. That was additional downfall just waiting to happen. Gonna pull me away from my brother's dead body and have me leave my mama too. These are your friends though. This is your vatos locos. Speaking of vatos locos, I would have never trusted Papa again in life after he tried to steal my chon chon. Absolutely not. But you have Miklo put in a position to prove himself and use his feminine wiles to kill somebody. You need to prove yourself. Prove that you belong. Take this risk. And he ends up taking over the prison in general, giving their gang a much higher rank. Oh, child, the whole Aryan brotherhood and the intimate moments. Oh, I just can't wait. Like, oh, God, they did a really good job of making him just downright disgusting. Like, just get off of my TV. Stab him already. I need him to go. Everybody was here in this film. I was so surprised to see Ving Rhames with hair. He looked weird with hair. As the little warden, we even get Danny Turo here. Machete. Everybody is here in this movie. Montana was a real one. When it came to, the gang and following rules and being sacred, playing smart, teaching Miklo the ropes, really taking him under his wing, having that forethought. I love how we get to see it from beginning to end, and it becomes much bigger than, prison control and gambling. No, let's set this money to the side for our brothers, our homes once they get out so they have something to look forward to. He was trying to build, wealth in the best way that he can. He was thinking about everybody as a whole, a leader in every sense of the word. The whole black versus brown aspect, they want to rise as far as power. They want us to kill ourselves. We have to think smarter. Get your GED. You have to get out of here. You have to be better. You have opportunity. There was so much potential there at what he could be and what he truly was to Miklo. And I loved every minute of it in the depiction of prison. I'm telling y'all, the whole prison sequence was so smartly written, and it just seemed so realistic because it was just like, we have Montanas, we have, different variations of who people are in prison. Everybody is just not one note. But the best thing it ever did was show that gang means nothing. Family means everything. Who you think you are and the connections that you may think you have with somebody just because they are, considered La Familia means absolutely nothing. And we see that through characters like Popeye. We see that through the rival gangs. And we definitely see that through Miklo's character later on. How could you? Child, when we have Miklo finally get out and he's relying on Popeye for stability, a place to stay, and hanging on to his word as to what he said he was going to do for him. Hey, what we talking about? What you doing? It was just too much. That whole experience was well written yet again. It just really shows how Miklo very much had intentions of, getting out, going the straight and narrow. But when I get out, things are not the way I thought they would be. My opportunities are very limited. Like, I feel like I'm still in jail. I just feel like I'm tied down. I feel like every single thing that was said in prison is not coming into fruition here on the outside. I thought these things were supposed to be waiting. I thought this money was supposed to be here. I thought this gang was supposed to have this in place for me as well as others when we get out. I love how the movie separates the two. When you're out and you're in a gang, it means something else. When you're in and you're in prison, it means something else. The two rarely meet. All you have are gangs on the street taking orders from people in prison, to make stuff happen, to keep rivalries going, to, keep shit in check. But as far as holding anybody to a standard, that shit is rarely happening. And I think it said a lot that he felt like he had more control, more leverage, more money, more privilege when he was in prison than when he was on the outside. Oh, everything was just hidden. When we have him pretty much at the end of his rope and just decide, you know what, I'm gonna be a part of this heist. I want some quick money. I'm really low-key done with this shit. And we have all people of Popeye sell him out. Big surprise, because we could trust Popeye. I don't know how Popeye made it out alive. We should have shot Popeye on sight as soon as we got out. Like, no loyalty to nobody. But when we have that dilemma happen between him and Paco, and it's just like, oh shit, this is my cousin, stop our shoot, I totally did not think that he was going to shoot him. And the fact that he did, like, I was so conflicted on it. I was like, I know you're doing your job and, you know, but this is your cousin. And a lot of the shit that he is going through, you contributed to it. And I was low-key kind of with Miklo, like, you owe me something. Like, what about, but it's just like, you know what, we can't keep going on, you know, harboring over shit that happened a decade ago. This is who I am now, and this is who you are now. I have to do my job. Now, sadly, he shot him in his leg, shot him clearly in the wrong part, and his whole leg had to be, well, half of his leg had to be amputated. Like, what the fuck? Like, the trauma is never ending. And I think a lot was said, you know, when he got out, and it's just like, you know, you're out, you've been out, why didn't you call me? Can I help you? Can I do something? And it kind of seemed like they hadn't had any communication since Miklo got locked up. And then we get more into that distant, like, you can't expect people to gravitate towards each other. And I feel like you haven't supported me in years, and the other family, when I do get out, who is here, is strung out on drugs, and you guys have ostracized him. Everything is still broken. Nobody at that moment is putting family first, and things go to shit again. When we have the movie get closer to the end, and Miklo, of course, a statistic now, returns to jail for his second time, and we realize who he really is in this moment, especially when it comes to Montana. And it's like, okay, I've done this, I'm not new to this rodeo. Like, we see it, you know, being less about, at first it was about gambling and numbers, but as the years progressed and we got into the 80s, it's about drugs and heroin and coke. Everything has changed, but you have Montana who's still harboring on, you know, gangs and family and what it means to protect our people. Like, this is not what we should be pushing and doing. This is not what it's about. Let's just, you know, lay low, ride this out. Things will change eventually, but what we're not going to do is be in prison selling drugs and poisoning ourselves as well as other people. Miklo is not for the shit. We get into what it really means and what this gang is really about. This is about position and power, especially when we get into prison. And if we don't have any power, we don't have anything. And whatever I have to do to get that power, so nobody is in the yard taking my leg off and putting it in my mouth and spitting in my face, that's what I'm gonna do. Even if it comes to taking out Montana, who hadn't seen his daughter in 11 years and was about to see her for the first time. That shit cut me deep. I was like, like, the writing was good because I did not see that coming at all. Like, when we get that double-edged sword moment towards the end, and it's just, you know, who made the soap mold, because you really don't know what's going on, because this is prison and there is so much double crossing going on, and you don't know anybody's agenda. Was it Delroy Lindo and them? We don't know what's going on. But to know that all the while it was Miklo and his A-Spoon Coon, I was blown away. I was like, oh, I did not see that shit coming. I did not know he had that in him. But it just goes to show how much he had changed and how much prison had changed him. And all along, just like everybody else who had done their stints in prison, unlike, you know, someone like Montana, gang, whatever, we, you know, of course are stronger as a unit, but when it comes down to it, it's about power, position, and money. And if we don't have any of that, we're not running anything. Roll with that shit or get rolled over. He took Montana out, set up the whole thing. I knew he was gonna set up some shit, and I love the whole black. We're like, yeah, we gonna be peaceful for 6 months, you know? Yeah, we chilling. Yeah, we gonna take them niggas out on the low. Like, I thought that was smart not to, you know, in prison. We didn't put no trust in nobody in prison. I love how he had all them smarts in prison, but you got out and put your trust in Popeye. What's up with that? But it's just like, we, you know, don't let your left hand know what your right is doing. And, you know, hey, we're going to set this up, chill for 6 months, and then we're going to kill these niggas. Because, you know, push come to shove, they might try to do the same to us later because it's about family. Oh, family, it's about no, it's about goddamn power. They took Montana out for power even before he got to see his baby. In the end, we only get to see things change within the movie when we have the families start to build those strong bonds again, and we have the family embrace and forgive Cruz. Like, that was such an emotional moment. And then it coincided, you know, with the Day of the Dead situation, with all the fuckery and the death. I was like, people just dying like clockwork in this prison. Everybody just needs to go. Everybody just, this was happening in prison. We're just gonna kill everybody. Like, it was not a good time. But we see things begin to rectify. And then of course we have Paco just feeling like, you know, this is my blood. He used me. He didn't listen to me. I thought, you know, things were going to go one way and they didn't. This is not what it is anymore. Majority of Miklo's life has been spent with him being raised and embraced in prison. That's what he knows. Nobody strongly embraced him and raised him at the time that he was out. So no, he wasn't going to lay low and be forthright to keep the violence down in the prison like you suggested. What you have going on the outside of here has nothing to do with my life in prison. It is two different worlds, and the two will not mix, and you will never understand. And I think we see a lot of that with Paco on the outside, running around with his little picture, trying to connect dots and get people to turn in and do this and do this. No, people are giving whole hits on clubs in black communities from their jail cell. Like, did you see him flush that pig down the toilet? Like, they was giving away all the secrets in this movie. Like, you just wouldn't understand. And, you know, as Miklo said, you know what? Regardless of how you feel about me, we are always family. And we see how prison has changed him. And sadly, he got what he always wanted in jail. He wanted position. He wanted power. He wanted family. He wanted connections. He wanted to belong. And he got that in prison. And he didn't get it anywhere else. He didn't have time to get it nowhere else either, because child, he went to jail, what, 17, 18? So you just wouldn't understand. But at least on the outside, we have Cruz clean now, trying to get his brother to identify with, you know, we will always be that. This painting, this mural means something. That's why it's still here. Who we were then, or, you know, why we are who we are now. All of the strong attributes that Paco had young and reckless as, you know, a young guy, those are the same strong things that makes him such a good police officer. And, you know, we still have Cruz with that talent. Like, we are still that. Don't dismiss who we were. We will always be Vatos Locos, Homes. All of that made each of us who we are individually. You may not like who we became, and, you know, it took some struggle and some drugs and some Juanitos and some John buzz to get there, and Papa ass still roaming the streets. But we are who we are, and we need to love each other for it and through it. Vatos Locos. Well, you guys, that was my review for Blood In and Blood Out. I hope you enjoyed it. Please drop down and tell me what you thought about it. I am so sad that it took me this long to watch this movie. Child, I was falling asleep. I caught myself trying to watch it later in the day, and I didn't know it was 3 hours long, but it kept me up and it kept me going because I was intrigued and I wanted to know what else was happening. Yes, this is about, you know, gangs and family, but it's just so many different layers and so many different opportunities to learn something from this movie. Watch this movie. I see you guys next time for my next review. Bye.